Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Oh, you talk about blowing a conventional wisdom to smithereens. Holy smokes, have you seen this? With Jeb Bush out. Remember what everybody said. You had Trump over here at his 35% whatever, and you had everybody else over here. And all of that equaled anti-Trump. So you had these people out there say, yeah, so if Kasich gets out or if Carson gets out, and those votes are going to go to Rubio or Cruz, and they're going to get closer, and then if Cruz or Rubio get out, then it's going to solidify, and then eventually we're going to beat Trump. Well, all that just got blown to smithereens, folks, because one-time front-runner Jeb... When was Jeb the front-runner? Greetings and welcome back, by the way. Great Rush Limbaugh here today. It had to be... Yeah, that's what had to be before he declared. Yeah, back in December 2014, when Jeb was saying he's going to win the general by losing the primary. And as I said yesterday, the first stage of that, he's done. So according to the Bush team, they are primed now to win the general election because they've lost the primary. That must have been when he was the highest rated back in late 2014 and the first half, maybe 2015, before he announced, before Trump got in. Anyway, telephone 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. Well, by the way, what did I tell you? The Justice Department now saying, wait, we had 12 more phones we want to get right after Bill Gates. I wonder if someday the true story of that guy will ever be told, too. But anyway, Bill Gates is out there siding with the government. We can trust him. They only want one phone. They only want to get into one phone. It's a cheap phone. It doesn't matter a hill of beans. It's a terrorist phone. Come on. So Gates goes out there, goes on record. Now the DOJ. By the way, there's 12 other phones that we're waiting on. And guess what? In New York City, the police commissioner there, Bill Bratton's still depressed because the lanes is closed. And the mayor, Bill de Blasio, they've got 175 phones they want Apple to break into. Everybody's lining up. I don't mean to be jumping ahead of myself here, folks, but I'm telling you, it's another one of these loaded days. Anyway, one-time frontrunner Jeb Bush's exit from the 2016 Republican presidential race has helped Donald Trump expand his lead. Oh, no! That wasn't supposed to happen. Bush's votes, as relatively few as they are, not supposed to go to Trump. No. Of all the candidates, Bush voters would never go to Trump. Maybe Carson's. Maybe some of Rubio's if he got out. Maybe some of Cruz's. But never. It wouldn't happen. Not a single Jeb voter would migrate to Trump. Rasmussen reports said today that Trump has expanded his lead by 15 points. This is a Rasmussen national survey, 36%. Rubio's at 21. Cruz is at 17. Rasmussen found that Trump expanded his lead by 5 points. Time to when Jeb got out. So all of this conventional wisdom that every candidate with support, other than Trump's not going to get any of it. I've been warning people that that's not the case anyway. And now we have our first bit of... this is going to shock them. This is going to blow them wide open. They're not going to know what hit them. And the second polling story today is that in Ohio, Trump beats Kasich by 6 points. And that's the only reason Kasich is hanging on, is to have a good showing in Ohio. Kasich wants to be kingmaker. Kasich knows he's not going to be the nominee. Kasich wants to be the kingmaker, maybe even be the Veep. And yesterday, Larry Sabato and somebody else on television suggested that the fastest, best way to head Trump off at the pass is for Rubio to go out there and ask Kasich to be his VP and for Kasich to accept it so that these guys, eventually Kasich's vote could all go to Rubio. particularly when they get into Ohio, and then have the ticket, Kasich, Rubio, Florida, Ohio, and skunk Trump. And that's the only way they can do it. If they don't do it and do it fast, according to Sabato and some of the others, there's no stopping Trump. Kevin McCarthy, better than 50% chance Trump's the nominee. Others are saying that time is dwindling away. But this Ohio poll showing Trump ahead of Kasich, I don't know what people were expecting, but apparently they were expecting Kasich to win that because he's the governor there and is a relatively popular figure there. But it's amazing. The evidence is right in front of everybody, and they continue, many of them, to remain in various states of denial. Can I give you two contrasting stories here today? Lead story all morning at Drudge. Trump says that if he's elected president, he will prosecute Hillary. Do you know what a big deal that is to people? I think this is another one of these classics. I believe that people see that and don't believe Trump means it. He's just mouthing off that he would never, ever do it. And big whoop. Why is Drudge making that the lead story? The truth of the matter is, there are people out there who have wanted Hillary Clinton prosecuted since the 90s. There are people out there who have wanted Bill and Hillary Clinton seriously intersecting with the law since the 1990s. There are a lot of people who, this will surprise you, and it's anecdotal. I've had about 5 email notes today from people. That's it. I'm going Trump. If he really does that, that's it. The hatred or the opposition or the disgust with the Clintons is so deep and profound that even something as innocuous as something people think Trump will flip-flop on has energized some people. And I mentioned this because I still think that there's a lot of people, even with the evidence right in front of them, still do not realize what's going on. So on one hand, here we have Trump claiming that he will prosecute Hillary. On the other hand, this is, I don't know. I'll just read it to you. Real Clear Politics. Marco Rubio lays out his policies. He was on with O'Reilly last night. And by the way, Dr. Krauthammer got annoyed with O'Reilly last night. I happened to accidentally have the TV on. I was watching some stuff on Apple TV, and I hit the wrong button, and it switched over to DirecTV, and Fox News was on from the weekend. So I watched it a little bit, and O'Reilly did his usual thing of giving his analysis and asking Krauthammer, okay, where am I right or where am I wrong? And Krauthammer's not there to tell anybody whether O'Reilly's right or wrong. He's there to tell people what he thinks. So he answered it, and it was kind of a lot of friction there. But anyway, O'Reilly last night grilled Marco Rubio what his policy will be on illegal immigration and immigration in general. And Rubio said, if we prove illegal immigration is finally under control, Americans will respond in a responsible way. Now, my guess is that this is exactly what the conservative or the Republican base does not want to hear from Marco Rubio right now. I don't know, folks. Because, look, it's just a side-by-side A-B comparison. Here's Trump still assuring everybody he's going to build a wall. Still assuring everybody they're going to go. The people here illegally are going to go. Trump, no matter what happens, what Trump is saying is that's what he's going to do. He's not wavered. And over here, Rubio is essentially saying, hey, look, once we secure the border, I'm sure the American people will respond in a responsible way. The translation for that is, we're not going to send them home. We're going to find a way to keep them here. It may not equal amnesty. It may not equal whatever, but I'm just telling you that this is not what people that Rubio needs to vote for him need to hear. Then you have Cruz comes out today, or last night, I guess, whenever it was, and doubled down. He made it no bones about it. He's going to deport. He supports people. Said, we're not quite sure what you're going to do here, Senator. You're talking tough on amnesty and so forth, but what happens? You're elected president, and what happens? They've got to follow the law. We're going to get rid of them. We're going to send them back. We're going to make them get back in the country legally, but we will deport all of them. So Trump and Cruz saying that, Rubio over here saying, well, if we prove that illegal immigration is finally under control, meaning if we prove we've secured the border, I'm sure the American people will understand. He said, as far as the 12 million that are here, look, I don't believe the American people support some sort of militaristic roundup of individuals, and I don't think you can carry it out. The sort of tactics it would require would offend the American people. Maybe, I'm not so sure it would offend. I mean, it would offend some, sure, but I'm the people that we are talking about here voting in Republican primaries. Not so sure. Speaking of Governor Kasich, you know, there's a, what would you call it? There's a belief. It's an old philosophy. And it's true. If you find yourself in any kind of a situation where you are having to explain something you did, or you are having to explain something that you said, that you're in bad shape. You're on defense. You're not moving the ball. You're not advancing the ball. You've got to stop to explain. Maybe you said something that wasn't clear. You have to take time to say it again, explain what you meant, what you really meant. Maybe you stepped in it. Maybe one of your opponents left a bag of dog manure right in front of you and happened to step in it. So you got to stop and you've got to explain that. Well, Kasich may have done that because now he's having to explain what he meant. Grab audio soundbite 14. Kasich is having to explain what he meant when he said this in Fairfax, Virginia yesterday.
How did I get elected? We just got an army of people who, and many women who left their kitchens to go out and go door to door and to put yard signs up for me all the way back when, you know, things were different. He
knew the moment the words came out of his mouth that he had to somehow fix this, so he was trying to make it sound like this happened way, way back in the old days when women were in the kitchen. And if they did anything other than that, they had to leave the kitchen to do it. Now, actually, that's the 1950s. And Kasich wasn't elected in the 1950s. So I'm sure a 911 call was placed to Frank Luntz. Calling Frank Luntz. Message emergency, messaging emergency. Please return call now. How did I get elected? Well, we just got an army of people. Many women left their kitchens to go out and go door to door and put yard signs up for me all the way back when things were different. So he caught himself there. Later, in the day, he was at George Mason University, and he got a question from a woman who talked about that remark, saying, I'll come to support you, but I will not be coming out of the kitchen. And Kasich, I got you. He knew that he had a verbal faux pas there. Where do you think that comes from? Seriously, where do you get it? The women left their kitchens to go out and put up yards, not make phone calls, not join me on a stump, not come to my office. And they left their kitchens to go hammer yard signs in lawns for me. Snerdley, you're an expert on this stuff. Where does that, what mindset is that? You need to help me out here. It's in the deep, dark recesses of back in the era of the male chauvinist. That's right, the era of the white male chauvinist, which obviously is over. But somehow there are. That's right. Okay, I didn't say that, did I? Did I say the era of white male chauvinism? Well, I didn't mean just white. I mean, this is true for African American brothers too. I mean, I think even the Eskimos have learned this. The only place probably where that remains untouched would be Sharia Islam. Hey, folks, listen up. I have the excerpts here from a video that I want you to hear. You have to hear this. It has gone viral out there on social media. Saturday afternoon, a young female Bernie Sanders supporter named Chelsea posted a video on her Facebook page. She had spent the day calling voters in the SEC primary states, encouraging them to vote for Bernie. And this video runs about 6 minutes. I'm going to play the whole thing here. It runs about 6 minutes. She's in tears. She's fighting back tears. She's wiping tears from her face. She's devastated in this. She wanted to recount her experiences for everybody to know just how horrible it is out there and what she encountered personally making phone calls for Crazy Bernie on Saturday. So here's the first soundbite, about a minute long. And remember, if you hear things that sound like she's crying, she is. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hit it.
Hi, Facebook. It's Chelsea. So today I hosted a phone bank for Bernie Sanders, and we were calling the states, like a lot of the Deep South states, for Super Tuesday. And I've never gotten emotional over politics before, and I'm still learning, and I think it's really important. But I think it's really important that everyone knows that the people that we called, many of them, unsurprisingly, were voting for Trump. And I just want you to know that the people that are voting for him are really sick people that refer to human beings as animals, and it actually made me sick. It was really disheartening.
This is sad stuff here, folks. This is devastatingly sad stuff. What a shocking learning experience this young woman to encounter, and it didn't get better as the video went along.
And I don't think anyone that's a human that has feelings and sense can sit through hours of talking to people that believe that just because you weren't born in the United States, or even if you were and you're not white, which I don't know what qualifies you as white anymore, it makes you not a human being. There were a lot of comments about just building walls and getting rid of the Mexicans, and I'm hearing that for hours was so horrible. And it was really, really nice when you would get people that answered that were for Bernie or even Hillary. There were very few Republicans and conservatives that would answer the phone and be kind, that wouldn't have something horrible to say.
So what do you think so far of this thing? I looked at the video, she appears to be in her young 20s, early 20s. What do you think? Do you think this is real? Do you think it's representative of young people today who when they encounter people highly opinionated, or they crumble and are reduced to tears, or is this all a giant scam? An actress, if you will, designed to actually send the message out. She's just calling for Bernie and Hillary. And these mean conservatives are making her cry with all this racism and bigotry. She's shocked. She is brought to tears, doesn't quite know how to deal with it. There's one more clip from it, and we will get to it after this. Okay, here's the final bite with young Chelsea, the female Bernie Sanders supporter making phone calls for Bernie. The SEC primary, shocked and brought to tears by what she heard on the other end of the phone. She was reduced to such a quivering mass that she admitted she doesn't even know what it means to be white anymore. And she was disgusted by what people were saying to her about Mexicans and whatever else. She was reduced to tears. Here's the final soundbite.
So if you're not politically involved, that's fine. But I think that you should know what's going on. People are actually saying disgusting things like this, and it's real. And I couldn't type it out because it was so horrible. And that's that. It was really interesting. It's still a really magnificent thing to do, to be involved, but it was really hard. And it was not at all like calling the other states and calling Nevada. And, you know, these are people that think that they won the Civil War.
Aha!
It's like talking to less than a brick wall. I don't even know how to describe it. So this is just coming from someone who did some phone banking on Saturday.
Right.
Have a good night.
Good night. All right, so there we get to it. These are the people that she was upset by. People who think they won the Civil War. It was like talking to less than a brick wall. And they happen to be Trump supporters, according to young Chelsea. So I just wanted you to hear that because that video has gone viral out there. Now, I just saw something on Fox. Let me tell you a little story. Snerdley came in here today. He and I have had a back and forth over Mitch McConnell, whether McConnell's going to cave on Obama's Supreme Court choice to replace Scalia. And I told Snerdley what I've told everybody. When McConnell first spoke up about this, he said, should not. Obama should not. And we should not, meaning the Senate, confirm anybody given its presidential year. And I pointed, he did not say would not. He said should not. That's Republican establishment wiggle room. And Snerdley, who so desperately wants to believe, like many of you probably, so desperately want to believe that something will give these people backbone. And it may be the Supreme Court that does it. So desperate. So Snerdley has been constantly singing Mitch McConnell's praises to me. So he walks in here today. I got to tell you, Rush, Mitch is hanging tough out there. He's hanging tough. He said there aren't going to be any hearings. And I said, yeah. But what did Grassley say? Snerdley says, well, I haven't heard of him. Grassley hasn't said anything in a while. Okay, so that's about a half hour for the program. Well, during the break, while I was putting myself back together from my emotional distress listening to Chelsea, I saw a little graphic on TV that said that Chuck Grassley has decided to invoke the Biden rules and there will not be any hearings on a nomination that Obama might put forth. And I said, hallelujah. Now, that's just today. We're talking about the establishment, rhino Republicans in many cases. It could change tomorrow. But it's clever. Grassley actually said he's invoking the Biden rules. What are the Biden rules? Well, it's very simple. Audio soundbite number 6, June 25th, 1992 in Washington on the Senate floor. Here's Senator Biden saying that President George H.W. Bush should not appoint a Supreme Court justice in an election year.
It is my view that if the president goes the way of Presidents Fillmore and Johnson and presses an election year nomination, the Senate Judiciary Committee should seriously consider not scheduling confirmation hearings on the nomination until after the political campaign season is over. It would be our pragmatic conclusion that once the political season is underway, and it is, action on a Supreme Court nomination must be put off until after the election campaign is over. That is what is fair to the nominee and essential to the process. Otherwise, it seems to me, Mr. President, we will be in deep trouble as an institution.
Right. We'll be in deep trouble as an institution. What deep trouble? Anyway, what's going on here? It's George H.W. Bush's last year, and the Democrats, political animals that they are intimidating and trying to bully 41 in and nominating nobody for a Supreme Court vacancy in his final year for all the reasons that you heard Biden enunciate there. And Grassley today said, hey, you know what? It sounded good to me. I'm going to invoke the Biden rules. Now, there probably aren't any Biden rules formally established. She's just referring to this soundbite as the Biden rules. Now, I pointed out way back, in fact, let's go back February 15th, about 8 days on this program, when we first learned of the death of Scalia and the Democrats saying we cannot let this election year stop us from making nominations. And everybody pointed out how Schumer and all these other Democrats, including Obama, had said that during an election year, presidents last year in office, they should not nominate Supreme Court justices, shouldn't have Democrats on the record. It was blatant hypocrisy. And I reminded everybody that it doesn't matter. It's not, you can't humiliate them. You can't embarrass them. You can point out their hypocrisy all day long, and it's not going to have one iota impact. Here is audio soundbite number 4. That's exactly what I said. Pointing out what Chuck Schumer said back in 2007 and saying that the Democrats, to be consistent, ought to be saying that Obama shouldn't be appointing justices. Are you kidding me? So you go to Chuck Schumer, hey, Chuck, you're being a little hypocritical. You think Obama should be able to appoint a justice right here, right now. But in 2007, you said Bush shouldn't. Different circumstance, you'll say. Iraq war, massively unpopular president. The polls were in. The country hated George Bush. The country hated everything George Bush was doing. But Obama is beloved, and Obama is still loved and adored and supported and so forth. And it's not the same thing. And he'll tell you he's not being a hypocrite, that he's putting the country first. And you'll be left with, what did he just say? That's what he's going to do. That's what they'll all do. They're not going to let hypocrisy trap them. You can point it out all day long. It's not going to be of any value whatsoever in this fight. Pointing out Democrat hypocrisy never had. Republicans get hoisted on their own petard with it. That's part of the double standard. Pointing out hypocrisy on the Republicans can nail them, but not the Democrats. It's just the way it is. Okay, so Schumer and now Biden, and there have been many others who have blatantly directly contradicted themselves on this. And Schumer was asked about it yesterday in Washington on Capitol Hill. He was speaking to reporters about the Supreme Court vacancy. And then Biden's call not to approve any nominees during a presidential election. People had unearthed that. So a reporter says, so, Senator Schumer, do you think Biden's 1992 remarks are damaging to your argument?
No. Look, the simple answer to this, which everyone is saying everywhere, is do your job. Doesn't matter what people said in the past.
What about what you said?
We should do our job.
It doesn't matter what we said in the past. What we said in the past was about that moment, and this is now. That was then, and we're going to get what we want whenever it is. Whatever year, we're going to get what we want. We got a Democrat president. We got a chance to own the Supreme Court for 25 years and snooker you can schlong you people left and right for 25 years, so we're going to do it. But what about what you said back in... Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We got to do our jobs. So I'm telling you, the hypocrisy argument, don't rely on it to stop them. It isn't going to stop. And it's not going to persuade people to abandon the Democrats. You can't embarrass their supporters to abandon them. It just isn't going to happen. It's interesting to point it out, make good sound bites, but it's not going to happen. I'll grab a quick phone call. Stephen in Newington, Connecticut. Thank you, sir. You're up first today. It's great to have you. Hi.
It's a privilege to talk to you. It's a privilege to be first.
Thank you, sir.
My question is simple. If Trump is able to pull out the nomination, and I'm a Cruz supporter, do you think that they could possibly make amends where Cruz could take Scalia's place, which would be a logical transition for Cruz?
You know,
and your thoughts, on that, and also would that change the power of the Senate? And, the whole picture of that did happen. And would McConnell actually invoke the nuclear option in order to get him through the Senate committee?
Let's take the first thing first here, and that is Trump. Well, Cruz agreeing to drop out in exchange for a promise by Trump to name him to the Supreme Court, fill the Scalia vacancy. That has been, yes. I saw that speculated upon last night. There's some people actually hoping that happens, not Cruz fans. There's some people hoping it happens because they don't think Cruz is going to win and they want Cruz involved. They think he'd be great up there. The answer to the question is, Trump doubled down today on Cruz. Cruz had to fire Rick Tyler. Well, I don't know if he fired Rick Tyler. Whether he had to or not, that's even up for debate. But Tyler, what happened on this? And this is really crazy. It's about a dirty trick, and this is one that cruise guys fell for. Apparently, in a hotel lobby, Cruz's dad and some people sitting around, and Rubio goes walking by and sees that they're reading a Bible. And somebody's videoing this, and they close caption it before they circulate the video, saying that Rubio, pointing at the Bible, said, "You won't find any answers in there." And it's oh, dear. And Rick Tyler was presented that video. Oh, my God, it's a gold mine. It's a godsend. And went with it. And it turned out to be a setup that Rubio had not said that. In fact, he had said the exact opposite. He'd said all the answers are in there. And then he even quoted a chapter and verse. And then the news went out that Tyler, the communications director for Cruz, had run the video and had to apologize for it. Cruz asked for his resignation. And even if it had happened the way it was presented to Tyler, Cruz says, "We wouldn't do anything like that. That's not who we are." So Tyler, who was good, he's a good communications guy. I've been watching him on TV. He does good things for Cruz. He's gone. And Trump, who has just been nailing Cruz unmercifully, every day, Cruz is a worse liar than he was the day before. He's a nasty, nasty guy. He's a liar. This guy, he holds the Bible up when he lies. I've never met a guy lying. And then with this incident, he's now all over Cruz for scapegoating his poor communications director. Trump's out there saying, essentially, this is Cruz's fault. That's the people he's got working for him. It's his mistake. He stupidly fell for this trick, and now he's blaming his guy, making his guy fall on the sword. My point to you is, Stephen, I don't know, Trump has gone so far in insulting Cruz in terms of his integrity and character. I don't know how he turns around and nominates him for the Supreme Court. Now, I know that it's politics and stranger things have happened, and it probably wouldn't be much to mend the fences, mutual acknowledgments that might have been comments that went beyond the pale, but we all know what was going on. It wasn't meant personally. I guess it could happen, but boy, it would be a huge turnaround. But beyond that, Cruz not going to get out of this race. And he's certainly not going to get out of the race on a promise that he's going to be a Supreme Court nominee. So he's going to play this out. He's still got Texas and the rest of SEC and Super Tuesday to go, and thinks that there's still chance. So it's one of these ideas that pops up as the intelligentsia in politics starts filling what I call downtime or blank time between primaries, between elections. By the way, the Nevada caucus for the Republicans is today, and you can't find this in the news. I know. Okay, I'll come back and finish it right. Here's another story here, folks. Not sure how this is going to be received at the Rubio camp. Lawmakers flocking to support Marco Rubio's White House campaign after Jeb Bush dropped out of the race on Saturday. A slew of Republicans in Congress who previously backed Bush are moving to support Rubio as he battles Republican rivals Trump, Cruz, Kasich, Carson. Rubio's campaign announced ahead of Tuesday's caucus in Nevada that Senator Dean Heller, Nevada, Mark Amaldai, Nevada, be backing his campaign, and some representatives from Florida are all Bush backers now moving over to Rubio. Bob Dole says, as much as I love John Kasich, Rubio probably a better candidate, and he's young. So I guess means Kasich isn't. So Bob Dole on ABC. Do we have this? Yeah, grab soundbite number 30. This is, I mentioned this earlier, this is Rubio on the O'Reilly Factor last night. And I'm just, answer this for yourselves, but I'm not sure that this is what on the fence, if there are any, conservative primary voters actually want to hear.
As far as the 12 million that are here, look, I don't believe the American people support some sort of militaristic roundup of individuals, and I don't think you could carry it out. The sort of tactics it would require would offend the American people. And the good news is we don't have to do it that way. If you secure our border, if you put in place mandatory E-Verify, if you put in place a mandatory entry-exit tracking system, if we prove to the American people that illegal immigration is finally under control, I think the American people will respond in a very rational, reasonable, but responsible way.
What he's saying here is if we ever get to the point where we could secure the border and prove it, and announce the American people that no more illegals are getting across, certainly not in mass, that we've got it under control. He's saying the American people, I think, would be very fair and understanding about the 12 million or whatever the number is that are here, and would not want to deport them, and would want to find a way to keep them here, keep them united with their families. No, over here, Trump, deport, they got to go build a wall, no question about it. It's the signature element of his campaign. Cruz has now joined that aspect of it by acknowledging that he would support deporting all 12 million. So this is clearly the establishment line here that Rubio has taken. And we'll just have to wait and see how helpful or whatever else it ends up being. Now, Cookie was so worried that I would be accused of making fun of Chelsea. The young woman in the video we played earlier was brought to tears by what mean things her people were saying to her. Let me tell you what I think. I think that thing's a hoax. You know, I've never phone banked, but the one thing phone bank is to get out your own vote. What is she doing calling Trump people? She's making phone calls for Bernie Sanders. The SEC call people you know that are already donating, or you know they're going to vote. You want to get them out to vote. You're not calling to change anybody's mind here. You're getting out the vote. What's she doing calling Trump people? I'm suspicious of that whole thing, particularly how quickly it went viral. Nah. No, I'm telling you, I think the Chelsea video is a hoax. It was too cliched. It fits every stereotype too perfectly. Young girl, millennial, in politics, trying to make a difference, trying to help people, trying to be, really involved. And she making phone calls for Bernie. Because we love Bernie, we love socialism. And then out of the blue, she ends up talking to Trump voters. She's working a Bernie Sanders phone bank, and we all know that's to get out the vote. That's not calling people to argue with them or change their mind. It's to get out the vote. And she's talking ends up talking to Trump people who are so mean. And it made me cry. These are the Mexicans, and the animals, and these are white people, and I don't even know what it means to be white anymore. Starts crying about that. And then these people, they still think they won the Civil War. It's like talking to less than a brick wall. It's way just when I heard it's like talking to people who still won the Civil War. She's not old enough to know what the Civil War is, and there's no question she's probably not been accurately taught about the Civil War anyway. So I think the whole thing, it's too pat. It's gone viral too fast, and I think it's designed. A typical Democrat trick to portray, in this words of this innocent young flower of a Sanders supporter, not yet pollinated, how mean and vicious out there. And then there's this, folks. You see the report in the Hill.com over the weekend, a Bernie supporter. A Bernie Sanders supporter was investigated by the Secret Service for trying to post an obituary in the newspaper for Hillary. That's right. February 20th, the Hill.com Clinton obituary notice prompts Secret Service report. A man who appears to be a Bernie Sanders supporter has been reported to the Secret Service after trying to leave an obituary notice for Hillary Clinton in a Nevada newspaper. The man, who identified himself as Don Schubert, filed the obit Friday with the Las Vegas Review-Journal. The newspaper reported the notice listed Clinton's date of death as Saturday, the day of the Nevada Democrat caucuses. He was asked to leave the building, but later reported to the Secret Service by the newspaper, the Review-Journal. And get this, it turns out that the guy who did this hosts Bernie Sanders phone banks, just like our young flower, Chelsea, hosts Bernie Sanders phone banks. The official Sanders campaign website also lists Don Schubert's house in Long Beach, California, as a volunteer phone bank site. So here's this guy running a Bernie phone bank, and actually posted an obituary for Hillary Clinton. You gotta love it. But I'm just saying, it looks like some dirty tricks are coming out of the Sanders camp, folks. And the dirty tricks are aimed at Hillary and also at Trump. Well, and the Republicans, the conservatives in general. And if I'm wrong, if her video is genuine and if everything she says happened, and she was minding her own business, calling Bernie supporters, and some of them started shouting at her about Mexicans and the Civil War and reduced her to tears, then, well, we're very, very sorry for that. It's very, very sad. Really very sad that happened. I'm sorry she had such a rude awakening to the political system in America. I know it's not what they learned in kindergarten, and it's got to be. Oh yeah, these people were worse than animals. They were worse than animals, and I don't know what it means to be white anymore. What does that mean? I don't know what it means to be white. That's not something a Bernie supporter would say. And if somebody's running around talking like that, it's going to be from an entirely different demographic group. Anyway, I just wanted to be on record as thinking, to me, it sounds like a hoax. I could be wrong, but it sounds just too pat. Greetings and welcome back. It's a delight to have you here. 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. I have to tell you, I was kind of blown away watching Obama today. He was on time for the most part. He was scheduled to show up at 10:30 and make comments regarding the closing, finally, of Club Gitmo, where we have a thriving licensed merchandise business. One of the first things Obama did to refresh your memories, I mean, it was the first week that he was in office. He's up there reading all these executive orders and making announcements about their intentions. And he's got some guy up there named Greg Craig, who was a Washington lawyer who had been involved in sending Elian Gonzalez back home to the communists from Florida. And Obama's going through these things he's going to do and his executive orders, and he had to stop in the middle of it and say, what are we doing here, Greg? What's going on here, Greg? And Greg gets kind of embarrassed because he wrote it for Obama to say, and Obama didn't quite understand it. But they ended up talking about they're going to close Gitmo. They're going to close Guantanamo Bay. It's where we're keeping the terrorists, and it's rotten. It's horrible. It's where waterboarding went on. It's a recruitment plus for the terrorists. We have this prison there, and he's been promising to close for 7 years. So he goes out today to announce that he's going to close it, and I was stunned watching this. For one thing, the issue as far as Obama goes is 7 years old now. There hasn't been any sense of urgency about this in 7 years. Not like this today. And yet there he was portraying this, closing the prison at Gitmo, as one of the most pressing, urgent, important, we can't delay any longer things that we face today. He went on about how hard he has been working for 7 years to close this. He said that our allies call him every day, demanding answers, wanting to know when we are going to close Gitmo. Because Gitmo, according to Obama and our allies, is the #1 terrorist recruitment tool in the world, which, of course, cannot possibly be true. Well, okay, I'll be glad to demonstrate that. What is Guantanamo Bay? It's a prison in Cuba. Who's there? Battlefield captured terrorists. Right now, there are 107 of them there. All these allies, Obama says, all of our allies are calling him every day, demanding to know what we're going to do, when we're going to close it. None of them want any of the prisoners, however, and Obama said that. So what are we going to do with them? What do you think we're going to do? We're going to transfer them here, folks. We're not letting them out of prison. We're changing the prison. We're going to move them from Guantanamo to Supermax facilities in the United States. Now, if Guantanamo is the number one terrorist recruitment tool in the world, guess what's going to happen? Our Supermax prisons are going to become the number one terrorist recruitment because they're still going to be in prison. This is, well, it was insulting to my intelligence, but it was absurd to boot, because we know what the number one terrorist recruitment tool is Islamic supremacy, Islamic superiority, Islamic ideology. The imams, the mosques, that's where the recruitment am. Are you kidding me that Guantanamo Bay, the number one terrorist recruitment tool in the world, that's no different than Obama saying the United States defending itself and protecting itself is the number one terrorist recruitment tool in the world. So essentially, Obama just insults the United States again and basically claims that our very existence is putting us at risk because our very existence is angering young Islamic men and inspiring them to jihad. When anybody with half a brain knows that's not the case. What's inspiring them to Islamic jihad is their mothers, their fathers, the imams, the mosques, and Islamic supremacy as it is taught. To be consistent, if Guantanamo Bay was making the United States an even bigger target, we would release them. No matter whether another country would accept them or not, we would release them. And then we would not be as big a target, right? Because then we would be nice people, and we would be understanding, and we would no longer be holding Islamic terrorists prisoners. But we're not going to release them. We're just going to move them. So we're really to believe here that a facility, a brick and mortar facility, maybe a couple palm trees, but you get the drift, in Cuba, is what is really putting us at risk from further terrorist attacks. I thought it was Apple. I thought it was iPhones. Now we're finding out it's Club Gitmo. Okay, so we're going to move them to American prisons here in America, continental United States. Where Obama says, don't worry, they'll never get out. We're going to put them in these Supermax. There's never been an escape. It ain't gonna. That's not what we're worried about. There hasn't been an escape from Gitmo either. That's not the thing. The attempted escape becomes the problem. What happens if you have a terror cell that decides it wants to attack one of these Supermax prisons under the premise of trying to get one of these or two of these prisoners out? It's still increasing the risk for people who work at our prisons and people who live near them and any other number of ways. This move doesn't make any sense. To close Gitmo under these premises, it's ridiculous. That a brick and mortar facility with some palm trees and a beach happens to be the number one terror recruitment. That telegraphs to the world what a bunch of rotten, mean people America has. And so, in order to eliminate and get rid of that threat, we're going to move them to American prisons, where they're supposed to then go, okay, we are happy now. You have closed Guantanamo Bay and put them in Supermax in Colorado. We love you now. Is that how this works? It's crazy. But that's what Obama said he's going to do. Once again, if you strip it all away, what Obama said was that it's the very existence of the U.S., our laws, and our enforcement of our laws that really ticks them off out there, really angers them and makes us a bigger target. If we just stopped enforcing our laws, if we just stopped imprisoning captured terrorists, why, they would respect us more, they would love us more, and maybe attack us less. Here, listen to yourself, Obama. 2 sound bites here from this morning at the White House. Number 1.
When it becomes clear that something is not working as intended, when it does not advance our security, we have to change course. For many years, it's been clear that the detention facility...
Wait, cue that back up. What evidence is there that these prisoners being in prison is not enhancing or advancing our security? It most certainly is. The people in the prison are not free to go out and conduct attacks. I'm so glad this is about over, but this just reminds me how what absolute horror these last 7 years have been dealing with this kind of... I don't care what the issue is. I don't care if it's health care. I don't care whatever this guy... We get this kind of nonsense, BS, lies that insult everybody's intelligence. Mr. Trump, you really want a guy that's not telling the truth about things. Focus on this guy. This guy is leading the pack. This guy and the Clintons, they're making pikers out of anybody else you happen to think is lying out there. Okay, play this thing again from the top.
When it becomes clear that something is not working as intended, when it does not advance our security, we have to change course. For many years, it's been clear that the detention facility at Guantanamo Bay does not advance our national security.
How so?
It undermines it.
How?
Keeping this facility open is contrary to our values.
Whoa, come on!
It undermines our standing in the world. It is viewed as a stain on our broader record of upholding the highest standards of rule of law.
What an absolute crock. That's the biggest, most gigantic, filled crock I have encountered from this guy in a long time. It's essentially saying, for many years, it's been clear that the prison does not advance our national security. Our prison undermines it. Keeping the prison open is contrary to our values. What freaking values is he now besmirching? This is the constant go-to for Obama. It's not reflecting our values. I don't think his values are mine, folks. Not too many of them. But clearly, keeping Islamic terrorists in prison undermines our standing in the world. Do you notice it's always about that? It goes back to 2008, the Iraq War, Obama's campaign making the world love us again. And now it's been open for 7 years under his auspices. Once again, the Limbaugh theorem on display. Obama acting like somebody else has kept it open. Somebody else is making this country at great risk. Somebody else is denying our values. Somebody else is making us look really bad around the world. He's going to come in, save the day, and close the place down, even though for 7 years, with all of these reasons hanging over his head, every day he couldn't be bothered to close it. But now that he's leaving, and he even said, Biden and I are leaving, so we don't even have to be political about it anymore. We can do the right thing. Well, that's a tantamount admission that the reason he didn't shut it down is because of politics. Get this next bite. We have time here.
I've been working for 7 years now to get this thing closed.
Right. That's enough. Stop the tape and go to a break. I've been working for 7 years to get this thing, as though somebody's been out there stopping him. As though these dark forces, powerful forces, standing in his way. He's President of the United States, for crying out. It's the same reaction I have when I listen to Hillary or Bernie talk about the economy or health care. Who the hell's been in charge, for crying out loud? All right, look at me. I'm going to tell you what this is really all about. What Obama wants, before he can move these people, they have to have a trial. And by the way, all these calls that he's getting from our allies asking about what they're really asking is, will we take their refugees? That's what they're really asking. They want to get rid of their rabble. They're asking if we'll take them at Club Gitmo. They're not asking Obama when he's going to shut it down so America's values are restored. What a crock. What this is about is giving many of these incarcerated terrorist bad guys trials. as though they are citizens. Obama knows plenty of radical left-wing lawyers that cannot wait to defend these guys, paid for by the United States government. You remember how Obama and Eric Holder, they wanted to bring Khalid Sheikh Mohammed to New York for a trial? And there was such an outrage. He still wants that. Now, you might be saying, what does he want to put him on trial for? Well, folks, some people may not yet have learned this or may not yet have gotten to the point where they can accept it. But Obama disagrees profoundly with everything we did in Iraq and the war on terror. He disagrees with everything about it. He doesn't like that we are at war with Islam, and he wants these terrorists to be able to testify to what rotten treatment they got. He wants these people in American courts shouting their grievances of the United States to the world. He wants trials for many of these people before he moves them to American prisons. And the reason he wants trials is he wants to give them a voice. And in the process of conducting their defense, they bring witnesses, they testify maybe themselves to their mistreatment, to how horrible the United States has been in their native countries, to their families, their friends, or whatever. Brace yourselves, because that's the desire here. This is about making the United States face in front of the world the horror and the terror it has brought to otherwise innocent and harmless people around the world. Make no mistake that is part and parcel of what is desired here. Back in a moment. Now, don't misunderstand. Obama can't close Gitmo on his own. And that's what this thing was all about today. The dark forces standing in Obama's way of closing Club Gitmo has been a bipartisan Congress, which has voted time after time in bipartisan majorities to not fund, to not pay for, moving these terrorists. So once again, Obama wants to go out and use illegal executive orders to bypass as much as he can with public pressure. And that's why all this malarkey about it's not true to our values, it's putting us at greater risk. It's just condescendingly insulting. Here's the second Obama soundbite, by the way. Here it is, number 30. In 3, 2, 1, hit.
In order to effect the appropriate disposition of individuals currently detained by the Department of Defense at Guantanamo, and promptly to close the detention facility at Guantanamo consistent with the national security and foreign policy interests of the United States and the interests of justice, I hereby order. And we then provide the process whereby Guantanamo will be closed no later than 1 year from now. We will be. Is there a separate executive order, Greg, with respect to how we're going to dispose of the?
Hold it. That. No, number 30 is the second Obama bite, talking about. Well, no, 29 is the first Obama bite, then 30 is the second Obama bite. 31 is that what you just played? That's the numbers I've got. That was Obama telling Greg Craig, and I'm trying to follow. So what is this? Okay, let me explain this. Here's the bite that I wanted says this. Obama, I've been working for 7 years now to get this thing closed. As president, I've spent countless hours dealing with this. I do not exaggerate about that. Our closest allies raise it with me continually. And that's the bit about him calling him, raising it, and making him think that he wants us to think that they want it closed, when if they're calling him, it's because they want us to accept their refugees at Gitmo. They don't want it closed. They want to send us their dregs and everything else. Obama's trying to twist it around and say, oh, no, they want us to close Club Gitmo, and it's making everybody look bad. Now, when he says he spent 7 years trying to close it, these dark forces, it's Congress, bipartisan, Democrats and Republicans have refused to pay for it. They do not want these prisoners here. And they do not want them to have trials. There are some Democrats who don't want any part of this, but Obama does. He wants them brought here so they can have trials. He wants to put them in supermax prisons here, which still has them in prison, which still is not our values, which still makes the prison a target for potential attacks trying to effect an escape. I mean, what's the difference if they're in prison here or there? It seems like we're safer if they're in prison in Cuba. Closest thing we'll ever have to Alcatraz here. This is all so damn convoluted. I'm telling you what this is. He wants these trials. He wanted the Khalid Sheikh Mohammed trial. He wanted it public. He wants it on television. He wants these people telling the world how rotten they've been treated by the United States, how unfairly they've been treated. He wants these people to recount all of the horrors they have experienced at the hands of the U.S. military. And who knows whatever else. Because I'm here to tell you that Obama resents the heck out of the entire war on terror and its premise. He won't even identify it. He will not even say Islamic terror. You can't even say terrorism. You can't say jihad, none of this stuff. Now, I do, just since I mentioned this, grab what on my sheets number 31 is the soundbite you just played. This is 2009, January 22nd, 2009. I mean, the day after Obama's been immaculated here. And where he first brings up the whole notion of closing Club Gitmo. And he's got this famed Washington lawyer, Greg Craig, with him there. They're in the Oval Office. And Obama has signed the executive order calling for the closure of Guantanamo Bay within 1 year.
In order to effect the appropriate disposition of individuals currently detained by the Department of Defense at Guantanamo, and promptly to close the detention facility at Guantanamo consistent with the national security and foreign policy interests of the United States and the interests of justice, I hereby order. And we then provide the process whereby Guantanamo will be closed no later than 1 year from now. We will be, is there a separate executive order, Greg, with respect to how we're going to dispose of the detainees? Is that written? Set up a process. We will be setting up a process whereby this is going to be taking place.
So here's our young boy wonder president here announcing he's going to close Club Gitmo. No thought has been given to what the hell we're going to do with him. So in the middle of announcing his executive order, he has to turn to the guy who actually wrote it, Greg Craig, who's the guy who got Elian Gonzalez out of that little house in Florida and sent back down to the communists in Cuba. Is Greg, is there a separate order here for what we're going to do with the disposal of detainees? What we're going to do? And it says we're going to set up a process. Oh, yeah, right, yeah. We'll be setting up a process whereby this is going to be taken place. So he just ran out there, and the first thing he wanted to do was satisfy these radical left-wing lunatics that had elected him, who thought that his election was all about closing Guantanamo because this silly notion about our values or what have you. And it looked like he'd not even seen these. It looked like these had been pre-written for him, and he was sent out there to read them. What are we doing next, Greg? What are we doing next? Oh. Anyway, to the phones we go. This is Lena in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Great to have you on the EIB network. Hello.
Yes, good afternoon.
Yes.
I have a question.
What is that?
So, this morning, Obama gives his little speech, and then in March, he's going to go visit Cuba.
Right.
Is it possible that he's going to just hand over the naval base over to Cuba, and can he do so unilaterally without Congress approval?
No.
No?
No, he can't do it.
Well, he's done so many things.
Look, with this guy, look, there has to be caveats. I know. The law says that he cannot randomly, discriminately, not only hand bases over to people, he can't close them on his own. We have a separate base closure commission of former government officials who, since they can't they're not in office, they can't, the flack they get won't affect them. Our current elected officials don't want their fingerprints on anything like that. So we set up blue ribbon panels to close bases. And we've been doing that for, well, at least 15 years. But, no, he can't just hand it over to Castro. Castro's, by the way, it's a good question you're asking because Castro just despises the fact that we have a presence there. Just despises that there is still a naval base at Guantanamo Bay. Now, your real question is, if he could, would he? And you can probably answer that yourself, Lena.
If he could, he would.
If he could, he would.
He would have done it already.
Yeah. Well,
he doesn't want to go over there empty-handed. That's why I thought about this.
Well, he doesn't need to give him Guantanamo in order to. No, he's already given them the gift of. He's just propped up this communist regime when they were about to implode. Yeah. He just propped them up. He's given them life.
Yeah.
He's not going to Cuba empty-handed, and he's not going to come back empty-handed either. Anyway, I'm not going to begrudge him going to Cuba. I'd like to go to Cuba. But I'm too famous. I couldn't. I can't do those kinds of things. You mean they don't know me there? You have no idea. In your dreams, they don't know me there. They most assuredly do know me in Cuba. They've got a couple 5-star hotels in Havana. Well, international 5. Look, they do have a couple of really, for Cuba, 10-star. Yeah, worldwide. They've got a couple from. I'm reporting what I've been told. People who have been there. It's not very many. I mean, most people still walking around with their hands out, hoping that the Castros will give them a rice cooker. Now, the general population over there is still a day trip to Cuba. Well, yeah, but I can't get in there and get out. No, we Americans still do not have blanket freedom. You still have to get certain kind of visas to get in there. Not much has really changed yet on that. There have to be specific reasons where you get a journalist visa. They wouldn't give me one. I don't think. I wouldn't want to go on a journalist visa anyway. But it's a little bit easier to get there, but it's not just if you want to go. Although, I did read recently a bunch of airlines are expanding the number of flights from the United States to Cuba. It's going to be an incredible number of, daily or weekly flights whenever they get it up and running. But, I mean, when I say I'm too famous, I couldn't go there and not be noticed and followed around and inspected, documented, and would news reported back what I did. I just couldn't do it. I'm too famous for this. And as Dawn saying, they don't know you in Cuba. If you only knew, folks, if you only knew. By the way, I just want to reiterate again, because I kind of threw this out there and mentioned it in passing. You see where the FBI, the Department of Justice, is. Oh, by the way, after we get into this terrorist phone, after Apple lets us in, we have 12 other phones here that we need help getting into. And they're not related to terrorism. Other crimes. Not related to terrorism. Not terrorist-possessed phones. There's 12 other phones that, oh, by the way, we want Apple to get us in these 12, too. It's not going to stop. Let's see. One other thing. Just from the New York Times on November 15th last year, 2015, just a few months ago. The latest defense bill out of the House even explicitly forbids the closing of Guantanamo Bay. As recently as November. That's what Obama's all fired up about. So who knows what he's going to do when he's down there. Or even before. Here's Pam in Brentwood, Tennessee. Great to have you on the EIB network. Hi.
Hi, Rush. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
I have been listening to you since I was in college, and I'm 48 now. And today was the first day I had to call in because I was ticked off next door.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry, Rush, I was. I just felt like you had an opportunity to share Marco Rubio's true stance on immigration, and that one snippet from O'Reilly, and I realize you can't play it all, but you could have expanded upon it and shared exactly what he was saying.
Okay, hang on, Pam, hang on. I'm going to find here, it may take me a half hour to find it, but I want to find the sound bite and I want to play it for you, and I want you to say, oh, look, I found it. It's number 30. We've obviously got two number 30s here, so I don't know what number this is for you. But it's Rubio tells the base what it doesn't want to hear is what it's titled, and it's from Fox News last night. So, Mike, when you found that, let me... Okay. So, Pam, I'm going to play this, and then you and I will talk about it. And if you're ticked off at me, and you're not the only one, for not telling the full story, you'll have your opportunity to do so. Here, O'Reilly's question is, of Rubio, your vision is to deal with illegal aliens here who have broken our laws. How? What will you try to sell the voters? And here's what Senator Rubio said.
As far as the 12 million that are here, look, I don't believe the American people support some sort of militaristic roundup of individuals, and I don't think you could carry it out. The sort of tactics it would require would offend the American people. And the good news is we don't have to do it that way. If you secure our border, if you put in place mandatory E-Verify, if you put in place a mandatory entry-exit tracking system, if we prove to the American people that illegal immigration is finally under control, I think the American people will respond in a very rational, reasonable, but responsible way.
And that's the end of our bite. And my comment was that I'm not sure that that's what Republican primary voters want to hear, because what it means is that once we get the border secure, we're not going to do anything about the 12 million here illegally, except find a way to make them legal.
And that's simply not his stance. And I have to admire Marco Rubio for not exploiting the anger of the American people on this immigration situation. I look at myself as a realistic conservative, and the people I talk to and my friends who are of different political viewpoints all feel the same way. And it is unrealistic for anyone to think that Donald Trump and Ted Cruz are going to deport 12 million people. And so Marco Rubio went on and discussed his E-Verify. And again, it may be the uninformed electorate, but if you read what that means, it means you come out of the shadows. You have to register. If you don't, you're deported. You also deport criminal illegals. And I don't get the fact that people aren't sharing his stance on immigration, and we know you know that.
Well, because you've just... God, now you're going to really hate me. You don't know, it's not your problem, Pam, but I'm being beat up these past 2 weeks like you can't imagine. For every one of you, there's 10 Cruz people calling, and there's 15 Trump people calling, and then there's 4 Kasich people calling. I can't win. This is what happens. If I endorsed one of them, it'd be even worse. What you just described comes right out of the Gang of 8 bill. The E-Verify, I've had it explained to me by no less than Senator Schumer. And that's my point here. I
guess I'm concerned that people listen to you and they cling to your words because you 99 point whatever percent of the time are usually right.
8.
8% of the time you're usually right. And when you make it seem like it's a realistic option for Donald Trump, I'm just giving you my interpretation.
No, you're not clinging to my words. You now are interpreting them. I'm just talking about what people are saying and how the base might respond to it.
Right. But
Pam, I want you to hang on. This is important, and I need you to hold on for a while. If you can't, maybe you can give us your number. We'll call you back when it's time to get back on. I've got to go. I've got to take a break here. Mr. Snerdley will explain it to you, but I will expand on this in a moment. It is the fastest 3 hours in media, my friends. This is heavy breathing here in order to keep up. So we got a chance here to catch our collective breath here at the top of the hour with an obscene profit timeout, perhaps local news, biased or unbiased, depending on your station. Just kidding. I'm going to catch hell for that, too. Just Okay, let me close the loop on something here because I want to move on. I've got a whole Democrat stack here of things I want to get to. And I'm going to do it. I'm not going to get sidetracked here by a bunch of stuff I've already covered. Greetings, welcome back, 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. There's a Breitbart news story, October 6th, says 2016, but that's not possible because August 6th of 2016 has not happened. So I'm assuming this is last year, August 6th of 2015, but hell, it could be 2012. Could be. Anyway, here's what it says. Marco Rubio says he wants border fence, visa tracking system, but voted against both to pass the Gang of Eight bill. And then from the article, it says this. When the Schumer-Rubio bill hit the Senate floor, Senator John Thune offered an amendment to require the completion of a border fence. Senator Rubio joined all members of the gang in voting against Thune's amendment to build a fence, which failed. Likewise, with respect to the implementation, the exit entry tracking system, Senator Rubio voted against an amendment offered by Senator Vitter of Louisiana, which would require the implementation of exit entry tracking systems in order to prevent foreign nationals from illegally overstaying their visas. This is all about this E-Verify system and the E-Verify card that would be handed out. Similarly, the Schumer-Rubio immigration bill did not require the immediate implementation of E-Verify. Now, what Rubio said to Bill O'Reilly is that these illegal aliens will pay a fine and pay back taxes. Now, Rubio's not the only one that said that. People who have... This is very hard. I can't win. I tell people what they don't know. They don't want to hear it. But this business of leaving the country, getting back in line, paying fines and back taxes and so forth, it sounds good, but when the time comes, it's never going to happen. Let me draw you an analogy. It's like Schumer. Whenever they talk about amnesty, they always say, don't worry, it's not going to include citizenship. Right, it won't. I believe that until the next day. After Schumer gets his bill passed that grants amnesty, it won't be long before he finds a camera and microphone and starts talking about the mistake they just made. And it'll be along the lines of compassion. How could we have overlooked this? He will say, or something like it. We have just voted a system whereby 12 million who are here can stay, but we can't. We're not going to let them vote? That's outrageous. It's simply outrageous. How could we have forgotten it? These people have been here for who knows how many years, and they have been paying their taxes, and they've been working in America. They have joined the military. They've become full-fledged citizens every way except legally, and now we're not going to let them vote, and that's how that'll happen, and it'll be bleeding heart again. Because at the end of the day, what this is the crux of the issue, and this is why it has been universally opposed by everybody in the Republican Party except for elected Republicans in the Chamber of Commerce. Whatever you want to call it, some people now say don't use the word amnesty because it's lost its oomph and it actually has a negative connotation because it's a tired, worn-out word. Whatever works. The objective of the Democrat Party is to take whatever people are in this country illegally and allow them to vote. That's all this is about. Everything else is a smokescreen. It's not about uniting families or keeping them united. It's not about compassion. It's not about economics. It's not about any of it. It's about expanding the Democrat Party voter rolls. All it is a Democrat Party voter registration program. And everybody talks all around it. I have proven it. I have offered to support every aspect of what they call the Gang of Eight bill or whatever else, the amnesty, whatever. I've offered to support it. I've done this in person, not just on the air. I've said I will support it if you put in a provision they can't vote for 10 years, 15, 25, 30, any number of years out, but they do not get the right to vote. They can't register to vote for a long time, and nobody is interested. Anybody facing this issue head on knows exactly what this is all about. It's about Democrats voting. The Republicans, here we are hashing out old ground. The Republicans who joined this have bought this notion that they can't win without Hispanic votes, can't win the White House without Hispanic votes. And the only way they can get Hispanic votes is to prove that they don't hate Hispanics. And the only way, they are told, the only way they can prove they don't hate Hispanics is to sign on to amnesty or whatever we're going to call it now, so that the 12 million who are here can all of a sudden become legal and can vote. And after that, magic's supposed to happen. Hispanics are supposed to, well, you know what, these Republicans are pretty nice. You know what, I like these guys now. You know what, I'm going to abandon the Democrat Party. I'm voting Republican now. That's what we're told is going to happen. Except that we know that it won't. I'm sorry to sigh, but it's frustrating. And now we've closed the circle. And now we're back at why Donald Trump is in the race and why Donald Trump is running away with it. You can get as deep or as shallow in the analysis as you want, but it's about a last chance, a last gasp effort at preserving the culture that developed after the founding of this country. It's no more complicated than that, folks. The country's under siege from all quarters, and recently the Democrat Party has joined those who have put the country under siege. Now, in this instance, I'm not even talking about anything other than perception right now. Candidates go out and say or do anything, the perception that people have of what they say or do is going to largely determine the reaction. They're not going to spend time going deep and deep into, well, what really meant was and what really is going to have to happen before. They're going to knee-jerk react because that's how important the issue is. They're not going to take any chances with it. So if somebody comes along and says, I'm going to deport 12 million, fine. I hear you, and I hope to hell you're telling me the truth because I support you. I'm going to deport them. They got to go. Donald Trump. They got to go. I'm going to build a wall. Who's going to pay for the wall? Back they go. Right. They're not taking the time to ask if he really means it. They've already decided that he does. It's that important to a lot of people. It's about preserving a distinctive American culture, which is under assault, which is under siege. And it's being brought to us by the Democrat Party, which is trying to register all kinds of new voters all the time because they need a permanent underclass of people incapable of taking care of themselves, incapable of providing for themselves, who will always be counted on to vote Democrat to be taken care of. And under these circumstances, people scratch their heads to this day and cannot understand why a single Republican would ever sign on to this. And if you want to know what happens to Republicans that do, the name is Jeb Bush. $100 million, and it may actually be $115 million, could not erase the baggage that Jeb Bush was carrying around, that people assumed he was for amnesty. It's that simple. That's what happens. That's where we are. And we're also back to reminding everybody that the establishments of both parties continue to be in denial. And maybe they're not. Maybe they know by now how fully opposed they are. And they've just got their backs up and they're going, well, screw you. We're still going to get what we want. You're the serfs. We're the elites. We run the show. Screw you. You may have some temporary victories here, but we're going to get this done no matter how and no matter where, whether you're looking or not, we're going to get it done. Now, that's their attitude. Their attitude is not, you know what, the American people really don't want this. We'd better modify this. That's not at all. That doesn't permeate the establishment mind. If you don't support what they want, you have to be taken care of. You have to be defeated. You have to be rendered irrelevant. You have to be cast aside, whatever. It's that polarizing an issue. And nothing's changed on it. And I have a little headline for you here. New York Post. The New York Post is reporting new legislation is being pushed that would give illegal aliens the right to vote in certain New York City elections. The proposal was recently discussed at a Black and Latino Legislative Caucus event in Albany. And according to the New York Post, it's winning support from the city's black and Hispanic activists. New York conservatives oppose this attempt to boost the Democrat Party enrollment. New York State Conservative Party Chairman Mike Long threw cold water on the idea. But if this thing were to succeed, here are the numbers. This proposal to grant illegal aliens in New York City the right to vote would result in 1.3 million new voters, non-citizens, voting. Undocumented. In the 2017 elections, they'd be able to vote for mayor, comptroller, public advocate, borough president, and city council. These are city elections. 1.3 million non-citizen residents, about 500,000 of whom are undocumented, would be able to vote. That has been proposed in New York City. Not federal elections, just New York City elections. But it's already underway, you see, folks. So discussions of, well, if we make the border secure and then... No. We don't have time for any of that. We're on the cusp of losing the country. That's why the anger. That's why the fear. And it's not just immigration, but it's the biggie. There's all kinds of other associated ancillary issues that comprise this. There's some other things to add to it. Just to adds a couple exclamation points. Daily Caller, almost 60% of Democrats think socialism is great for America. Remember what this is about now. This is about preserving the original American culture. And make no mistake, it's under siege. It has been for a while, and it's losing. A clear majority of Democrats believe socialism has a positive impact on society, according to a poll by the American Action Network. The political and economic system that has never worked, that wreaks havoc across the world from Venezuela to North Korea to Cuba to communist China, is enjoying widespread support in the modern Democrat Party. Socialism is a fraud. It's never worked, but it's seductive. A telephone poll of 1,000 likely Democrat primary voters found that when capitalism and socialism are polled head-to-head, socialism won by 15 percentage points. Just 25% of respondents saying they favored capitalism. This is not a poll of college students, folks. These were likely Democrat primary voters. In other words, a Democrat base. Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are not the radical fringe, the Democrat Party. They represent rank-and-file mainstream Democrats now. That's just one poll. There is yet another poll. This one is a poll fielded by a Republican firm called On Message Incorporated. And it basically has the same results. It starts out, maybe Newsweek was right some time ago. We are all socialists now. Democrat voters, every age group, every gender, every race, view socialism favorably, according to the poll. This is within the Democrat Party. And I saw on television the other day a woman, a Democrat, being interviewed about this very thing. And the reporter, expressed shock. And the Democrat woman, she's in her 40s, she said, why? We have socialism now. And she listed off the thing. We got Medicaid. We have Obamacare. And she listed off all kinds of federal programs that to her, we have socialism now, and I like it. It's taking care of my family. Why would I answer a poll question? No, I don't like socialism. We're living under it. Democrat voter. Just an average woman on the street. But that's not even the worst. There's another question in this poll. Please tell me if you agree or disagree with the following statement. Most of the media in our country is controlled by corporations who are more interested in profits than telling the truth. Before a corporate-owned media entity covers a campus rally for racial equality, they should first prove they are not biased against the content of the rally. A majority voted yes. That before the media can be allowed to cover an event, they must be educated on it and agree with the premise of the protesters. Otherwise, they won't be allowed to cover it. Majority of Democrats support that. And I imagine if you find a Democrat on the street saying, you really think? Well, yeah, that's the situation we got now. Everybody knows the media's on our side. Why should we change that? Why would we give up the media being on our side? Why should I give up my Medicare? Why should I give up my Obamacare? We got socialism now. Quick time out. We'll be back. Don't go away, folks. Sit tight here. And back to the phones. Pam in Brentwood. Okay, Pam, now you want to get your 2 cents in on this.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, you said a lot. And if I'm going to be completely honest, because I think that's what we all need to be at this stage of the game, I was not aware of the entire Gang of Eight bill. I did not know the details and how you explained them and the votes that Mario and the gang took. But I will say this, Rush. We are on a precipice, and we have got to face reality. And as you've mentioned and said on your program many times, there is no perfect candidate. And this election, we need somebody who can bring this country together and not divide it like the current candidates are. And I'm speaking of Donald Trump. I feel like he's exploiting the American people and their anger. I'm angry, too. But
May I interrupt you here for a second? And don't worry, you're going to have your full time. But I've got to stop you on something.
Yes.
This whole notion of working and bringing the country together, we're way past that. We're not going to unify with the liberal Democrats. We're not. There's no candidate out there that can forge a kumbaya. Look, these people have to be defeated, Pam. They have to be. They don't. There's no unity here. There never really has been in this country. Anyway, it's always been a contest for who.
Well, let me ask you this question: do you truly believe, with every ounce, every fiber in your being, that we can truly defeat the mindset that is now occurring in our country? Do you not think that we have kind of crossed the line now where we're going to have to find a candidate that I'm as conservative as you're going to get? And I understand now that I have to be realistic with who I think can actually win and defeat Hillary Clinton in November.
Right.
And you even shared a while back the candidates now, if you would get Kasich out, if you would get Carson out, if you would get one of those out, those votes most likely, their negatives of Donald Trump surpassed
other people are saying that. I haven't.
Well, you were reciting polls or whatever.
Right. Nobody knows. We do have a preliminary indication some Jeb Bush voters are going to Trump, but there's not enough days that have gone by for that to be known. I've got to ask you to hold it. We'll continue the conversation here, Pam, after the bottom of the hour break here, because this is important. This whole business of there's two things I want to tackle with you here. Don't go away. Now back to Pam in Brentwood, Tennessee.
Hey there.
Now, the two things you said, I want to be understood on this. You said that we need to have somebody who will bring the country together, and a lot of people talk about bringing the country together, unifying us, making factions of people who disagree somehow come together. I don't think that that's going to happen. We're too divided. And they're not interested in it, Pam. The people on the left, they don't want to reach common ground with us. We are gnats to them. Or worse, we are the Gestapo to them. We're Nazis to them. We are whatever, standing in the way of whatever they want. These people have to be defeated. They have to be overwhelmed. And then after they're defeated, they cannot be allowed to bully whoever wins into cowardice and caving in. It's going to be tough. Winning an election is just the tiny first step. After we win the election, it's going to take perseverance to prevail over all the attempts to subvert the winners of the election and to corrupt what's going on, knowing they still own a lot of the bureaucracy. But if you believe in a certain cultural America, it's under siege. There's nothing to join with on the other side in preserving it. They want to tear it down, transform it, and rebuild it. They have to be defeated. This is why the Republican Party's worthless. They don't even think this way. The Republican Party's thinking about showing they can work together, they can cooperate, make Washington work. Sorry, we're so past that. We're so far past that, it's irrelevant. We're talking about holding on and preserving the country as founded. And it's going to be really, really hard. The second thing is, Rush, and this is not just you, Rush, we can't deport 12 million people. We're never going to. Who says? All that is a conversation stopper. We are the United States of America. Who says we can't get rid of people who are here illegally? It's not a question of we can't. It's a question of, do we have the resolve to? Do we have the desire to? Does it make sense to do it? Are we going to do it? And believe me, even if we win on this, the people opposing it are going to be firing ammo at whoever wins like you can't believe. But if we're serious about stopping this transformation of America, it isn't going to be easy. And winning an election is not going to send a signal to the other side to stand down, you lost. They don't look at it that way. This is a fight between socialism and capitalism, freedom versus tyranny, however you want to. There isn't any overlap. The only things that we may have in common with them are what people want for their families, but we can't even agree on the definition of a family with half of these people. So I don't think all the putting our hands together and coming together and unifying and working and making the country come together and common ground, we're so far past that. Well, if we're serious about what we want. And
I didn't mean to be touchy-feely when I was referring to that. I think there's a way you can unify people, and we know there is because his name was Ronald Reagan. And I feel like we have been given a gift, the Republican, the conservative movement, whatever you want to call it. We've been given two gifts, and they are Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. And if this is not the time where we can bring a candidate who has those qualities, as much as we can look for them in a candidate on our side right now, to win this election, I believe we will start seeing a shift in tone, and we will start converting minds. Listen, I was at Mario's rally in Franklin, Tennessee this past weekend, and there were supposedly going to be just 1,000 people, and they had to open it into the parking lot. There were around 5,000 to 6,000 people. That was their estimate. He was the closest thing that I have ever experienced to Ronald Reagan in my entire adult life. And I just feel like that argument that we can't start bringing people to our side in quotation marks is not valid right now, because we are now in a great position because there are so... I'm not even making this about Rubio or any candidate right now, but you're making my point. You're citing the 80s and Reagan, and you mean his landslide victories is bringing people together. Well, then why aren't we still together? What the hell happened? 2 landslides. We had the greatest economy the country's known in our lifetimes. We had low unemployment. We had burgeoning job growth. We had individual and personal wealth that was going like crazy. We brought down the Soviet Union. Why are we still not unified? How did the left tear that down? Because they sure did.
because even when Reagan was bringing everybody together, they didn't stop. The Democrats in Congress were aligning with Soviet communist client states in Central America and Grenada and wherever else they could find to undermine Ronald Reagan. Teddy Kennedy was going to the Soviet Union and telling Soviet leaders, do not fall for anything Reagan does for you. Reagan is a trick. Reagan's a bad actor, whatever. They were doing everything they could to undermine Reagan during his entire 8 years. They hated Reagan as much, if not more so, than they hated George W. Bush. Because Reagan was more successful than George W. Bush. It was brutal. It was vicious. And if the country had been brought together, and if the country during those 8 years had actually learned that it was conservatism and Reaganism that led to all of that bounty, and the end of the Soviet Union, the Democrats would have never stood a chance. They would have been ended. But it was just 4 short years later, and here comes Bill and Hillary Clinton. And why? Because the next president got rid of Reaganism. The next president started making deals with the Democrats to show that we can do deals, to show that we're nice guys, to show that we can get along. My point is, we had the greatest economic circumstances in our lifetimes, and the Democrats were not interested, Pam. They didn't want to participate because it left them out of power. It's not about a great country to them. It's not about the American people doing the best they can do for themselves. That's actually bad news for the Democrat Party, because all that means people don't need government. People don't need the Democrats. People don't want them. They're not dependent. Bad news. Can't have that. Why do you think Ted Kennedy decided to reinstitute amnesty and illegal immigration during Reagan's second term? They had to undermine it somehow. And we went along with it because we accepted a promise that we would secure the border. And those 3 million in 1986 would be it. And here we are talking 12 million, which I think is probably more closer to 15 or 20 million. In the midst of abundance, in the midst of economic prosperity like we hadn't known since the post-war boom, the Democrat Party was trying to tear it down and succeeded. There isn't Jesus Christ running that's going to unify everybody. And I hate to say Jesus Christ didn't either. Unity is one of these things that sounds wonderful. Sororities love it. Fraternities pretend to love it so they can get inside the sororities. But it's nothing more than a dream. This is a world governed by the aggressive use of power, the aggressive use of force. And if you want to maintain both, you have to fight for it each and every day. It's never permanently won. You never permanently convert people. Even average, ordinary Americans in the 1980s who ended up having economic prosperity they'd never known were talked out of it in 4 short years. We're convinced it was phony. We're convinced it was a party that we didn't deserve. We ran up all these deficits, which was a lie. We had to now start paying it back. Sam Donaldson on ABC News, we got a big credit card bill here, folks, because of the Reagan 80s, and we got to pay it back. BS. That's what we've got now. The deficit was coming down with Reagan. The national debt was stagnant. It wasn't growing under Reagan. Well, it was, but it was the deficits eventually were brought under control. And in 1994, we actually balanced a budget for the first time in my lifetime. All that's gone. Because we have not had a Republican Party that accepts conservatism and fights for it and preserves victories when we get them. So every day, have you ever noticed what we talk about? We talk about stopping things. Every Republican think tank, every conservative media, whatever organization, including this show, every day is devoted to how do we stop them. We don't have time to get around to what we want to advance. We're too busy stopping. They're not talking about stopping anything. They're on the march. They're on the march and succeeding with things that 10 years ago you would have never thought would ever happen. Gay marriage. Today, you can walk in a lot of cities, you can walk into any bathroom you want, claiming you're a transgender, and you decide to present male that day. So you walk into the ladies' restroom. That's becoming a matter of law. 10 years ago, you'd have been laughed out of this country if you'd have thought that would ever happen. They are not stopping anything, except us. But they're on the march, advancing each and every day. We talk about stopping things. Now, you can correlate all this to the current presidential race and maybe answer some questions you have about why, how people are doing, not doing well, doing poorly, or what have you. Because the American people, I've just described how they feel about all this. Mine is the most common view. Everything I just said is what a majority of conservative-oriented cultural Americans believe. They're scared to death over this. They're frustrated. They're ticked off. They're angry. They want to do more than just stop something every day. They're tired of being overrun. They're tired of not having allies in the centers of power where this stuff can be stopped. It's not hard to understand. But it is. Because once you accept the task at hand and what has to happen, it's winning the election. That's the equivalent of being born, and we're an infant. And we've got people coming at us. They're going to try to wipe us out and eliminate everything and pretend it didn't happen. Corrupt, sabotage, undermine whoever the next president is and whoever's running the next Congress and whoever nominates the Supreme Court justice, if it's a conservative. You have no idea what's going to be brought to bear. We're going to need people with such backbone and guts and steel and iron to hold up and to withstand what's going to come at them. You can't even imagine it. But it's what's going to happen. So, it's all of that that informs me each and every day here, folks, as to what happens on this program, analyzing what's going on out there. This is for keeps. This isn't about unifying, getting along. They're not interested in it. And what do you want to get along with them over? What about their agenda do you want to embrace? I have to take a break. I'm a little long. Back. And that's it, folks. Sadly, we blew through what I had planned for the last hour, but it worked out. And can always do it tomorrow. The stuff left, there's still lots here. So we'll see you then. Thanks so much for being with us today, folks. Hang in there.